Another possible explanation of the M40's school minibus crash was put forward today. A police accident investigator and a professor both told the inquest they believed the driver, Eleanor Fry, had fallen asleep at the wheel. There was also evidence today about Miss Fry's poor eyesight. She and 12 children were killed. Our Midlands reporter Adrian Britton was at the hearing.
A classic case of driver fatigue. Professor Jim Horn's verdict on the M40 crash. As director of the Sleep Research Laboratory at Loughborough University, he told the inquest how the late-night, monotonous drive on the motorway would have created an overwhelming desire for Eleanor Fry to fall asleep. She'd been awake for 18 hours. The professor's statement also challenged forensic evidence that Miss Fry had probably removed her glasses just before impact, as the rim of her spectacles was found in her right hand.
And I think in her situation, that the dry air of the minibus and the air blowing onto her face as it was, then she would not necessarily take her glasses off, but she may have been doing something with her eyes, rubbing her eyes like this, or it's sort of speculation. But I don't think unnecessarily her glasses were off.
It's almost certain Miss Fry did not see the maintenance lorry she crashed into. The final part of the minibus was described by eyewitnesses as a gradual curve onto the hard shoulder, constant speed, no braking, no swerving. According to her optician, she was extremely short-sighted and needed to wear glasses constantly.
Without the glasses, she wouldn't see very clearly at all. Everything would be totally blurred. But with the glasses on, her vision would be normal.
Accident investigator Philip Moore questioned the safety of school minibuses, which have bench seats and no seat belts. PC Moore said he wouldn't allow his children to use such transport, especially on long journeys. And he said there should have been another teacher to share the motoring, or better still, the school should have hired a coach and professional driver. Adrian Britton, News at 10, at the M40 inquest in Leamington.
There was little comfort for rail travellers today. British Rail ran a few more trains than they managed in the last 2 one-day strikes, but the signal workers will be out again next Wednesday, and their union is now talking about 2-day stoppages. Our business correspondent, Mark Webster, reports.
Another Wednesday, another rail strike, as 90% of the network was paralysed. With no end to the dispute in sight, Railtrack again used managers and non-union staff to man signal boxes and keep some lines open.
Now arrived at platform 6 is the 832 intercity service to Plymouth.
While British Rail made great play of the increasing number of services, some trains, like this one in the West Country, attracted few passengers as travellers made other arrangements. British Rail is struggling to provide as much as possible of its normal 15,000 trains a day. On June the 15th, the first day of the strike, 500 trains ran. Last week, the 22nd, it was 1,000, and today BR estimates that 1,500 trains were running. Leaders of the signal workers at their annual conference in Liverpool will decide on Monday whether to escalate the dispute. In order to settle a grievance, they say, dates back years.
And we've been determined, right from the outset, and still are, that we're going to put the problems of those years right before we get into any detailed restructuring discussion.
Railtrack counters that signal staff must agree to radical changes in work practices first. But the human and economic cost of these stoppages runs into tens of millions of pounds a day. And if the dispute does escalate, so will the consequences.
The Governor of Hong Kong, Chris Patten, tonight won his battle for democratic reform quite comfortably in the end. An amendment which would have watered down his proposals was earlier defeated in the Legislative Council by just one vote. It was tabled by big business interests anxious not to annoy China. Our Asia correspondent Caroline Kerr reports from Hong Kong.
Today was D-Day, Democracy Day for Chris Patten. After a 2-year fight, his reform programme had finally come to the vote. But in spite of the warm reception he was treated to on his weekly walkabout, the future of his reforms rested on a knife edge. As legislators arrived at the chamber, they were lobbied on one side by democracy activists, on the other by the pro-Beijing lobby. And though some were clearly not open to persuasion, many had still not made up their minds. Inside the Legislative Council, it was argued that Chris Patten's reforms would harm relations with China in the run-up to handover.
A smooth transition may be of little value to our dear governor, who is taking off on his British Airways jet, but it means life and death to the 6 million people. whom he leaves behind.
In the back rooms, government officials worked frantically to save Patton's bill, lobbying the waverers who threatened to defeat it. When the final vote came, the governor's supporters won, and by a reasonable margin.
The result is 32 for the ayes, 24 for the noes. I declare the ayes have it.
Pro-democracy supporters were clearly relieved.
We do consider that is a wonderful victory, and we have defeated the very conservative proposal.
For Mr. Patton, tonight's victory is a bittersweet result. He may have won, but he can no longer claim to have the complete support of the territory. And he knows that when Hong Kong is handed back to China in just 3 years and 1 day, the Chinese leadership is committed to completely dismantling the reform package voted through tonight. Caroline Kerr, News at 10, Hong Kong.
Finally, we now know the lineup for the men's semi-finals at Wimbledon. Boris Becker is through, but not without more complaints about gamesmanship. He will meet Goran Ivanisevic. Pete Sampras will play Todd Martin. Graham Miller reports from Wimbledon.
Boris Becker says he's innocent. He doesn't know what the fuss is all about. But on set point against Bergström, Becker, the former champion, was at it again. Up goes his hand. Bergström is baffled. His volley goes out. The Swede insists Becker put him off. It's clear Becker raises his arm, querying the shot. Overruled, Bergström's livid. More controversy for the second set. Becker, at the crucial moment, goes to his chair and towels down. Watched now by the assistant referee. Ungentlemanly behaviour or not, Becker eased through to the semi-final in straight sets. The centre court crowd delighted despite the controversy.
I don't like what's going on for the past 2 or 3 days. You know, I'm doing the same things for the past 10 years. And all of a sudden, this is not supposed to be fair play.
Do you feel there's a bit of a conspiracy against you at the moment?
Well, the main problem is Andre Agassi is out. and you got to find a guy to fill in the space.
The cheating row is already hogging space in the papers. Becker moodily left Wimbledon tonight to swat up on the rules, but already the lawmakers are investigating.
There are rules there that will penalise somebody who deliberately distracts or tries to intimidate his opponent. But that's always a matter of judgment. I guess it's the umpire referee to judge that sort of thing. But it's been going on for a little while.
Tomorrow, Martina continues her march to number 10. Nothing to do with politics, just a record number of titles. And if she needs any incentive, victory in her farewell Wimbledon will take her winnings past an unprecedented $20 million. Graham Miller, News at 10, Wimbledon.
And that's the news. Good night.
Well, let's start by putting our weather in context. A very quick glance at our Met Office wind flow chart here shows low pressure up to the north, in fact responsible for pushing through the front that brought the cooler, fresher weather today. The good news is high pressure building up over Biscay. Look at that tomorrow, very much in charge, dominating things and translating into fine and sunny weather for most of us. A slight hiccup with the low pressure out there to the west, but too far away for us to worry about, at least just now. Straight away on to tomorrow then, and a fine sunny start to things in Northern Ireland, central as well as eastern Scotland. Slowly but surely though, that cloud just fills in, not overcast by any means, but the cloud tending to pile up. Further south, what can be said, a fine summery day. A lot of sunshine around, especially so there reserved for the southeast. Now these are the resulting temperatures, held at around about 21 to 23, that's 70 to 73 in Fahrenheit, with very light winds. 18 up there in Scotland, 64, so at least no weather excuses for not voting in the Monklands East by-election. That's all from me for another day. I leave you with tomorrow's weather summary. Good night.
Sponsored by PowerGen, a partner in